to the Bet On Me podcast, the ultimate resource for softball players looking to take control of their training and reach their full potential. I'm your host, Krista Stoker, and on this show, we'll be discussing everything from taking a holistic approach to your training to data-driven strategies for maximizing and growing yourself, not only on the field, but off. At S2 Breakthrough, we believe that athletes should lead their own journey and push past any perceived ceilings on their talent. So join us as we explore the world of softball player development and help you bet on yourself. Because when you bet on yourself, you can't lose. All right, S2 Nation, I have my coffee today because today my guest is Suzy, my dear friend, and I knew I was going to have my energy going to match her energy. And so I'm super pumped to chat with her today. We have developed a friendship, mentorship the past few years as sort of two of, unfortunately, kind of the only women in travel ball. And so really trying to, do some things differently. And I really look up to Suzy. So I'm so pumped to talk to her today. So maybe Suzy, if you can talk a little bit, tell everyone your journey in coaching, where you are now, what you're kind of doing now, and then we can go from there.
Well, first of all, it's an incredible honor to be with you, Sister Fire. So it was great when we just met happenstance. It's amazing how it orbits. I like to say your vibe attracts your tribe. And it was just a casual conversation. And then here a couple of years later, we're doing stuff like this and other things. So again, truly appreciate being a part of your journey and what you're doing here. So thanks so much for that. I've been coaching probably for a little bit over 20 years now, both in the high school arena and the travel ball. With travel ball, started an organization way back in around 1999, and then developed or created the organization I'm currently running, which is Glory Fast Pitch Softball. We're based out of Virginia, so usually we're known as Virginia Glory. And that was like about 2010. So just trying to be out there, seeing if we can help athletes, families reach their dreams. So I'm just very fortunate to have cool people like you in my life.
Well, I was saying, we were chatting a little bit before this about kind of some of the topics that you and I have talked about, and we have a little group of women that kind of chat and seek support from each other because, sometimes coaching can feel very alone, I would say. It can feel isolating or, you're wanting to help your athletes so badly. And sometimes that can be harder than other days. And one of the really big topics I've taken from you or that we've talked about has been, I think this concept of buy-in comes in a lot. Whether it's buy-in or trust, I think you can think of it as different ways, but, and how to get, often coaches are asking, how do I get my athletes and my families bought in? But then there's also the side of it that's for athletes, how do I get my teammates bought in really to be a leader? And so I think you've taught me some really good points on this, but maybe just touch on first from your perspective as a coach, what are some of the main concepts you use to get your families to buy in? Because I will say, if people walk over to your field, one thing that's definitely evident is that you've got a good culture of buy-in and people are really rallied around you. So what are some strategies, just first from the coach's perspective, that you've used to create that buy-in or trust?
Well, I think you said it right there. It's creating trust. And it's really just being honest with the athletes and the parents. So I liken it to creating a story, and just tell the athletes and families that every interaction we have with somebody, in fact, this is just great for life and actually frame everything to life. Every interaction we have with somebody either is going to build trust or take it away. Every single thing does. And so what we're trying to do is create an environment where everyone can do their best work. So being mindful of how I am towards someone, is that building trust or not? And you can do it in a lot of times people go, hey, let's go climb ropes or do things of that nature. But what I really find that it's just built on moments. It's just built on those simple interactions. So I like it to just a drip, 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 drip. We just make that and create that in our DNA. And when you build that trust, you also then allows you to go where there might be conflict, because you're going to have that. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be times when there's going to be disagreements. But when you've built that trust, it's coming from a good place. That person's heart. And that's where you build that foundation. I think sometimes things happen and that wasn't done prior or just made in your DNA. So then now when there's conflict or there's something that creates some strife, then things blow up and then now you don't know how to handle it, but nothing was built. That foundation wasn't built so people can go and reflect and say, hey, I wonder what's going on here with her. Why is this happening? So,
right. I think we were talking about this with a few of the other coaches that we chat with. And one of the things you specifically said was, you can't just send a weekly email, like newsletter, and think you're going to create buy-in. And I was like, hiding because I felt like that year in particular, the time frame that you said that was a year I was struggling a little bit to get my team and my families bought in. And I was writing just like novels every week to sort of wrap up the concepts. And I think it was just a good reflection point for me of what do these like drip concepts mean? So I think maybe just, can you give some like really specific examples of ways that you, maybe even a moment that's not intentional that came a little bit less intentionally, or some of the intentional things you do to drip that story?
Well, first of all, it goes, if I want my team to be, then I need to be that. So it really needs to start with me or anybody in leadership. You cannot expect those that you're trying to mentor, lead, help just become the person that they want to be if you're not walking your talk. So I need to make sure I'm following my own words. And then I shouldn't be surprised if I'm not, why those that I'm hoping will do X, Y, and Z aren't. So first of all, it has to really start with me and what I'm hoping to emulate. Because if I'm not doing it, it's not going to happen. So I'd say that's the first thing. So with that being said, then my behaviors are going to be a definite reflection on what I want my players to go. So if I want kindness to be how we interact, then that's how I need to interact. So that is kind of the drip, drip, drip. And then making that just part of our DNA. Now, with the drip, 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 I tell people, you've got 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old athletes. So I'm a parent of an athlete as well, and I'm just a parent. So when you are asking, your daughter, your child, hey, how was your day? What was going on? A lot of times like, oh, it was fine. I mean, you get those kinds of comments. So I think one of the superpowers a coach can tap into, and actually it helps the athlete as well, is with that drip, 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 you're telling the story. Like coach is framing the story he would like to be about his team or organization, and what values are near and dear to us, what are going to be our standards. And you just kind of weave that. I like to do like little parables. So, I do send emails, but they're more little conversations rather than here's the weekly thing. And it can be random. It's again, I'm having a conversation, but that way I'm framing the story of what I would like for our team organization to represent, rather than having that all hinge on the interaction between the athlete and the parent. So I think that can be a huge thing, and bringing the parents in on board, because they're vital to what we're trying to create. And
yeah, I think maybe if you can touch on how then that translates to the athlete, because personally I've found that there are a lot of challenges that maybe they're different. They're not, it doesn't make this generation of kid whatever the
Right.
label that we put on them, but there are challenges that are different. And I have found that leadership has been something that's, to me, feels more challenging to navigate, just with the things that these kids are up against, I guess, is the easiest way to say it. So what are some things that you have done to help build leadership on your teams? What are some challenges that you've, had in the past few years specifically of trying to do that?
Well, I think everybody, if you ask any coach, what is one of the major challenges is the social media.
Yeah.
And that's completely out of our control. But it's having those conversations with the athletes saying, hey, how does this impact you? And I mean, I even will say to them, and in my parents' meeting, I mean, can you imagine if you had a new job or somebody had a camera on you, 24/7, but let's say you like a new job or you're learning something new and somebody was following you at work and had the camera on you. And if you made a mistake, there it is. And it's posted on social media, on YouTube for everyone to see. That's what our athletes, that's what they're having right now, because everything is out there. So we tell them, hey, you need to fail, embrace the struggle. That's how you're going to learn. Well, that's a little bit challenging when your failures are all out there forever. And then somebody decides, oh, that's really hysterical. Let's make that like a little meme or GIF. I'm going to mess up the words. And so then there you go. People feel that they need to comment on, like, I'll see somebody post some video of somebody. Well, first of all, did that person ask you to do that? But then everybody feels they need to comment on the person's. Well, they weren't asking for your opinion, but hey, thank you very much. And rarely is it kind. It's usually tearing down. So putting ourselves in that space that the athletes are in. So we talk about it. One of my phrases is get curious, not furious. Like, everyone has a story. Instead of going to that place right away, because we tend to do that. Something happens, oh, I'm going to go there, because we always reflect on previous experiences. And, oh, well, so they have to be like this. Oh, they have to, oh, that's what's going on with them. Well, did you take the time to just say, hey, what's going on? And that gets back to that drip, creating that environment and just having conversations. And everyone's different. Everyone has a different story, a different journey of doing that. And the parents, they have the same thing. Everybody's caught up in comparison. Comparison.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So it's just understanding where they are right now and trying to meet that individual where they are right now, and not put them where you want them to be, but where are they, both as a teammate, as a coach. So,
yeah.
And then for me as a parent. So,
right. I think when you talk about failure too, one of the things I've seen is we're not only trying to encourage our athletes to fail on the field, which is, I hope at this point, a given understanding of softball, that if we cannot make people persevere through failure, we are not doing a good job of our job as a coach, because the sport is just, it's brutal. It can be very brutal. I just recorded a podcast episode with Josh Bloomer, and he said something, this will come out in a couple of weeks, but that really stuck with me. And he said, in college, when an athlete has a bad day, she's 0-3, 0-4. In travel ball, when an athlete has a bad day, she's 0-12 or 0-15. And it's just, we've compounded the failure so much. So we have to create that. But I think also we're encouraging athletes to fail off the field, or go towards confrontation sometimes, go towards those things. And that's something I've found almost at times more challenging than the failure on the field, because I feel in control sometimes. Like, we can create that in training environments and we can feed that message all the time. But then, what I have realized, I think lately, and because of this social media and the pressures these athletes feel to be a certain thing, and to not rub anyone the wrong way, right? And to really sort of blend in many ways, or not stand out. That it's sometimes one of the things I felt like I had to push this year, so I'm curious if you feel the same, is more authentic relationships with each other, where they feel like they can say, hey, when you said that, it really hurt my feelings,
right.
Or I always say to the athletes, like, I want you to hold each other accountable. It doesn't mean we're out in the field screaming at each other,
Right.
but there can be a, hey, why weren't you at training this week? Like, I'm not, mad. I'm just curious. Like, do you need a ride? Like, ways to have conversations. And I think that's been very hard. I have found that very hard for my athletes, because I'm making some assumptions of why, but I think because they seem to not want to have that level of conflict. They're fearful of that conflict because of everything that's around them, and things that will blow up. And is Sally going to go post this on Snapchat, and, whatever the ramifications of that are. So have you found that? I'm just curious. And then what are some things if so, what are some strategies you guys have used for those types of topics?
It would actually just be in what you said. Say, this is a challenge for us.
Right.
So, but I think we would all agree that however we can frame it and come together, and everybody's different, that's going to help success for you as an individual and for us as a team. Again, it's striving together. One of the things that I find is helpful is everybody goes around and gives each other permission to say things to them. So if they were doing a drill or whatever it happens to be, hey, I give you permission to say, hey, like, I don't know, your angles were off, or your hand came up too soon, or however it is. And so little things, but we're giving each other permission to, hey, I need your help, and I need for you to, like, be the camera, or if you see something off, or, if I'm not doing the standard, I give you permission to say, hey, you're not holding up the standards that we have for the team. And I say that to the players myself. Hey guys, if I've told you this, and if I'm not holding the line and doing what I said is important for us, I want you to say something to me. You need to hold me accountable too. We're all in the same boat. So,
do athletes do that? Athletes hold you accountable?
They do. I have, so, nobody wants to hear, hey, your body language looks this way. I mean, that's just, nobody wants to hear that.
Right.
And certainly if you're out in the field and you're hearing something and immediately your mind goes, hey, I'm being called out, or now I'm looking like this. So I would come up with code words, and I would say, hey, Suzy, I know you don't want to be perceived the way your body language looks at times. I know you don't want that. So how about we come up with a word? So if you hear me say this word, it's saying, and it's coming from a place, your body language is not what you want to look like. And again, it's creating an energy that you don't want. Right. And so for this player, it happened to be strawberries. So we'd go around and I'd have little words for everybody. If I say this, I'm trying to help you without, making it a big deal. But I said, I need to have one too, because you guys, I'm in the same boat. So my word was salad. Okay. Coach, coach, get a salad, whatever. So we were playing in a tournament, and we had a rough inning. And so we're all together, and I kind of was getting on him a little bit. And one of my players looked at me, she goes, hey, Coach Suzy, I think maybe you might want to eat a salad. And I looked at her and I was like, why did she? Oh my gosh. And I started laughing. And I said, I said, Eva, thanks so much, man. I needed that too. So I love telling that story. And so when the players do, you're part of it. So that's just one little thing. I loved what you said before about struggle. And so one of the things we love to say, one of our mottos is embrace the struggle. And struggle means I'm getting better. And that is the only way we will get better. And I also say to the players, you want to be in an environment, you want to be with individuals, you want to have a coach, a trainer that is pushing you. I said, hey, I would be really angry if for a year, 2 years, I was with someone and every time I worked out, they said, oh, that's great, that's wonderful. But they knew darn well that was not preparing me, pushing me for my dream, whatever it happened to be. I wanted to play softball in college. Because I tell them, hey, I can be a professional ball tosser. I can look at your swing path and I can put that right in there and you're hitting the ball and I can make you feel really, really good. But if you found out after spending time and I knew that wasn't going to make you better, I was just trying to make you feel good, I would be really upset because that's time I can't get back. So you want somebody that wants to push you. And of course, coming from a good place, I'm not screaming, but pushing and stretching and helping you to discover things you never know you could do. And hey, I'm with you, puppy. We're going to struggle right now. And I liken it to be baby mode. Like I said, when you were a baby and you were learning to walk, how many times did you fall down and bash your head against the coffee table, wipe out a couple stairs, go against the wall? Then they say, oh, that happened a lot. And I said, yeah. So when you're learning, like we're right now in baby mode. Like when you were a baby, like did you fall down and go, I don't think this walking thing's going to be for me? No, you were like, I want to do that. And you kept going on. And in fact, if there was other babies in the room, you wouldn't go, oh, that baby's walking before me. You just focused on you getting better and going on. And can you imagine if your parents said, oh, I don't want little Suzy getting hurt, and put you in a little wagon and like just kind of put you around the house and just, the little wagon. And that's how you got around because they didn't want you to get hurt. You would never learn to do those things.
Right.
So in baby mode, embrace baby mode. And then you'll reach something and then we're going to push you back in baby mode. So you're going to keep getting better and climbing and embracing that. And in fact, you know what? I think about it, babies are pretty tough. Because a lot of times people go, oh, quit being such a baby. And I'm like, well, let's think about that little baby.
Yeah. Okay?
Think about that baby. So we talk about that. We're in baby mode. You're back in baby mode. Isn't this awesome? And then that's the culture and environment you create. I like environment better than culture.
Right.
There you go. And you tell a player, one of the hardest things is that you're told, if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to get RST. It doesn't work that way, but we invest and we give it our best because that will give us the likelihood of having RST. Now, who knows what the return is going to be in your investment? And who knows when you'll get it back? It might not be when you want it. It could be later on. And then you go, oh my gosh, that's now where it happened. Because most people work hard. They have passion for what they want to do. And sometimes you end up getting at what you want at that time. A lot of times you don't. So just do it because that's the right way. And, if you work on being the best teammate, the best friend, the best parent, the best mother, to me, that's competing is becoming my best, not going against someone else. So,
yeah, I think that's awesome. And just to kind of recap, I think putting yourself in environments where you're failing is how you grow and learn. I think my question off of that, because one thing I feel like it's misunderstood a lot is this concept of confidence. And something that I have heard a lot through my coaching career is you're not building up my athlete's confidence, or I need help building my confidence. And I always think like that topic is really misunderstood. To go back to the baby analogy, if a baby is learning to walk, the way they gain confidence is doing it over and over and failing and doing it over and over and failing and feeling like someone's not putting them like on glass shards to do it or something. Like they're not setting them up
Right.
to fail, but
Right.
maybe talk through just generally the concept of confidence from your perspective, because I think that comes a lot. I mean, it's very related to this concept, and I personally feel like it often gets misunderstood of like what confidence means.
Yeah, that's a really interesting topic, and in so many different ways. I think confidence comes from preparation. So you imagine if you're going to take a test Friday morning, but Thursday night you're out at the mall or whatever, and you didn't really prepare for that exam. So when you sit down at the desk, teacher hands you the test, like, are you going to feel ready? Probably not. Or maybe you just naturally know the stuff, as opposed to the night before, the time before, you're actually going through your notes and preparing yourself. So it's hard to feel confident, or I like to say act confident. A lot of times it's like, even if you're not really feeling it, do confidence. Like Sima says, I'm not confident. Well, okay, do confidence. Just do it. So even if you're not feeling it, have you prepared? Yeah, I've prepared. I've really been investing and trying to work on my skills, whatever it is. Okay, so you've earned that right to feel it. I love what Coach Enquist talks about, earning the right to feel confident. I know, Coach, but man, I'm really nervous. Well, embrace that. I mean, that's awesome. Like, that's butterflies. That is your body prepared to go into battle. Like, I never will tell a player, relax. I'm like, ooh, isn't this awesome? I'm feeling my heart going nuts too. Like, let's get after it. But have you prepared? Have you done the stuff? Yeah, I have. Okay. So maybe not feel it, but just like act confident. Just do it. Just do confident, whatever that happens to be. And then trying to come up with strategies that way. But if you haven't invested the time and prepared, then I'm sorry, honey, you haven't earned that right to feel confident. Like, you have to do things. Just really as simple as that. So
yeah, I think it's interesting, this concept of confidence being external. I think that's what I always struggle with, is like my responsibility to make Suzy confident is confusing to me. Like, how can I do that? So I think it's, if you're creating an environment, obviously, if in the test analogy, I went and screamed in someone's ear while they were trying to focus on the test or something, I was intentionally bombarding the environment.
Right.
They might not be able to do confidence, but in general, to me, it's such an internal thing. I think, getting away from this concept of someone else is responsible for building your confidence. I just don't know how that's possible. It's not an external thing. So
yeah, I agree with you on that. And then it's not long lasting because you
Right.
own it. See, that's the biggest thing. We're trying to create things so the players own it. And I was joking with my parents the other night, and again, I'm cracking stories on myself about things of this nature. But when a player has success, they should own that success. They are the ones that did it. And so oftentimes as a coach or whatever, it's like, hey, Suzy, hey, way to have your hands the way I did. Way to do that. And so, like, I knew if you did that way to do what I said. And then so we're owning their success. They didn't
Right.
do it. They might have figured it out themselves. And maybe didn't even listen to you, but immediately you took that away from them because they did what you said. Then I think we need to be able to go, when they struggle, then we need to own that too. Okay? So, but no, we don't. It is when they do well, it's because of us. And when they don't do well, it's because they didn't do what we said. I say when they do great, it's because of them. And when they're struggling, that's where they're at and they haven't got there yet. And it's all on them. So allow them to own it all. Own it all. And I think that gets back to that internal confidence. And then even when they're struggling, they know they're not there yet. And that is the part to the drip. And that's just the conversations that you have to as teammates, as parents.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I'm just thinking of, oftentimes we'll have like a good game or something, and parents will walk by and be like, "Good job, coach," and I'm always like, "I didn't do anything." I mean, I know I did something, but like it just like confuses me when people say that. Like, "Good job, me? I didn't play." So like, yes, we're involved in it, but I think that's so interesting. But it really goes to your point of, it's not, we're used to that. We're used to the coaches owning that success. And I think really creating an environment where it really isn't ours. We're creating the environment.
Right.
We're fertilizing whatever needs to be to make sure that what they already can do can come out. But that's up to them. And in the same way that you can't control everything to not lose and that type of thing. So I think that idea, and this is for another day, but that concept of coaches owning the success has led us astray in many ways. Yeah. So I think, that's such a really good, powerful point. All right. I ended this question. This is a little off topic of what we are talking about now, but it's going to be the last question. And I've ended this with a couple people. I've ended it with some of the college coaches I've had on here, but I think that it's very relevant to you as well, which is, if you could suggest one or two questions that a athlete looking at colleges should ask their prospective college coach. So they're going on a visit and they are trying to feel out whether that's the school for them. What is a question or two that you think they should ask about that program to really see, to investigate whether it's a fit?
You could ask the coach, what are some of his or her coaching people that they enjoy to follow? Like who was somebody that they look and go, wow, I just love the way they do things. And you might get like a little snippet into who they enjoy, how they did stuff, and then if particularly if it's somebody that's one of the legends, you could have somebody, I love John Wooden, or I love the way Bobby Knight would do it. Okay, you probably are going to get like a little preview of maybe how they do things, because you have to decide as a player, like what really is important to you. And if you come from a place where the environments were more caring, loving, striving together, just the way they interacted, then that's probably where you would want to find yourself. And by saying this, I'm not placing any judgment. I mean, right. Everybody gets motivated differently. Some people want, I want somebody in my face screaming. Okay, then if that's what you need, then you might want to search for that. I think it can be done in a different way, but that's just me. So, for instance, if somebody was wanting to play for me and I said, hey, if you want somebody screaming and in your face and just grinding you in the dust to build you up, I'm not going to be your person. I'm not. But if you are looking for this, then yeah. So that gets back, your vibe attracts your tribe. So that could be a question, kind of get an insight of who they like to follow and who they hold like in esteem, and who they enjoy watching coach and the way they do things. So
I like that one. That's a good one. All right. Good one. Okay. We'll end there.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure I'm going to have you back like a million times to talk on. We have lots of topics, and I think really, the reason I have just found you to be such a dear friend is I really believe in the way you coach and what you're trying to build, and the impact you're having on your athletes is incredible. And so I think the more we can get that information out there, the better for everyone. So I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Oh, thank you, dear Sister Fire. And what's really cool about stuff like this, as I'm talking, I'm actually reflecting right now and going, okay, I said all this stuff. Okay, Suzy, are you really doing that?
Yeah.
So, but you guys are rock stars out there. Keep doing what you're doing. You're changing so many people's lives. It's really been awesome for me to watch And you go, girl.
Thanks. We'll talk soon.
Well, S2 Nation, thanks for joining another episode of the Bet on Me podcast. Go out today, bet on yourself, and remember, when you bet on yourself, you can't lose.